Good morning, everybody. It's July 3rd. Welcome to the North Dallas Plano Career Focus Group. We're about to get started here. So today's agenda, we will start out with success stories. If we have any landings, we'll have people announce those here. After that, we'll go to our committee reports. After that, we'll have our main event, which is we have two different topics today. We're going to talk about Google Voice, and we'll talk about Open Forum, and then we'll have our 30-second introductions. So we'd like to ask everybody, if you don't know it, on Zoom, the participant box is located at the very bottom. If you click on that, it'll pop up with a box that looks something like this. And here's an option where you can answer yes or no if there's any questions, or raise your hand if you have a question to ask everybody. Other than that, we ask you keep your mics muted. The other thing, that if your name is not full, like in Dana's case, and let me see who else here. A couple people who don't have ZMANH, whoever you are. If you will go and rename yourself so that we know who you are, that way I'll be able to enter your name onto the roster and make sure that we know that you're here and that you're signed up with us today. For those of you, as you have questions during the presentation, I ask, especially during the Google presentation, I ask that you just enter it into the chat box by clicking on the chat window. For those of you on Facebook, just enter your questions into the comment box. I am monitoring that, and we'll be sure to get that answered for you. At the top of the screen, you should have an option that says View Options for those on Zoom, and there's a couple different ways to look at things. Where the yellow arrow is, it'll switch back and forth between Speaker View and Gallery View. And if you look at the lower left-hand corner where the red arrow is, that is the speaker view in that corner. And right in between the speaker and the slide, there's that little white, there's three little white bars or something. If you grab that, you'll be able to slide that back and forth and make the speaker's picture bigger or smaller, depending on whatever makes it comfortable for you. Please note this event is being recorded and is currently live on Facebook. The recording will be on the Career DFW Facebook page and the Career USA YouTube channels for others to view in the future. By participating in this event, and if you post a comment in the chat box or have your microphone or camera on, you give consent for your comments, name, and pictures to appear. So we'd like to start the meeting off with good news. If we have any success stories, please unmute your mic and let's hear from you. Going once, going twice. We'll move on. Okay, I didn't see, is Eldon with us today?
I certainly am.
All right, good morning, Eldon.
Good morning, how are you, Jeff? Happy 4th of July tomorrow, and the same to everyone else. I'm going to present to you the career and job fairs and special workshops or events that are coming up for next week. The information comes from the calendar tab of the website Career DFW, which is on your screen right now. If you're interested in any one of these items, since I do go through them pretty fast, go to the calendar, find the item, and there's usually a link that you can register for the event or at least find out more information about it. All right, career and job fairs for next week. The North Central Texas Career Fair, virtually interact and interview with employers who are hiring now. That'll be held Thursday, July 9th from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. This week's upcoming special workshops or events, online only at this time, the Who You Know workshop will be held Monday, July 6th from 1 p.m. to 3 p.m. There's a link on the calendar to participate in that. This meeting is hosted by Foster Williams, and if you don't know Foster, get to know Foster. Coming up also on Tuesday, July 7th from 1 p.m. to 2:30 p.m. Online LinkedIn Tuesdays at 1 p.m. This is a rotating seminar that's presented by either Locke Alderson, Terry Sullivan, or Ruth Lipsky. This is a Zoom meeting, and there's a link in the calendar for that one.
And this week we have a special guest speaker, and that special guest speaker will be me. So
okay.
My take on LinkedIn.
All right. Online interviewing Wednesdays at 1 p.m. with Mark McDonald and Walt Glass. There's a Zoom link on the calendar for that. That's Wednesday, July 8th from 1 p.m. to 2 p.m. Online resume Thursdays with Carol Brickell, Certified Professional Career Coach, will be held Thursday, July 9th from 1 p.m. to 2 p.m. There's a Zoom link in the calendar for that one. Another online meeting, Distinctive Interviewing, hosted by St. Andrews Career Care. That'll be Thursday, July 9th from 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. And again, there's a Zoom link in the calendar to participate in that one. And finally, there's a private meeting coming up that talks about Career DFW and careerusa.org and how to use them on Thursday, July 9th from 5 to 6:30. But the important point about making this announcement, even though this meeting is private, is that there is a link on the calendar to find out when the public sessions for finding out how to use Career DFW and careerusa.org can be attended. And that's it for this week.
Great, thank you very, very much. All right, so my question for those of you who are on Zoom, if you'll open up your participant box and click on the yes or no box. We'd like to know, do you know somebody who lives outside the DFW area who's unemployed? For those of you who are on Zoom, on Facebook, you're welcome just to enter that yes or no in the comment box. But for everybody else who's on Zoom right now, please click the yes or no box. And it's 8 to 11, 9 to 11, 10 to 12. So almost 50%. Thank you very much for entering. It's almost 50-50. And, you know, the reason I asked this question is, have you told people who live outside the DFW about what the resources are here on Career DFW and what Career DFW has to offer? All these Zoom events can be watched by anybody, anywhere. So, you know, please tell them about where you see the blue arrow where they can click on that and they can find all the events that are happening all throughout the week. There are lots of free events that people can go and sign up for. So, you know, let people know outside the DFW area about Career DFW also. If you know somebody who just lost their job and they're not sure what they need to do now, I've got a little section here on I just lost my job, what do I do now? Click here for help. If you click here, it'll take you to a one-page resource on careerusa.org, and it's got several different files and some checklists and all sorts of great information on how to get that person going in their job search and what things they need to be doing. So let's see, is Mark with us for the practice interview team?
Yes, I am.
Hello, Mark.
Hey, good morning, everybody. So, you know, just jumping off on what Jeff just said about people outside of the DFW area. So the pit crew is going to have our first interview with somebody from California next Tuesday, and they were referred by a local person here to get in touch with me. And so there you go. If you know people, there's resources here in the Dallas area, and I think Jeff will attest that Dallas is one of the top markets for job searchers, and so we have a lot of resources available, and the pit crew is just one of those. So the pit crew is virtual now, and we're getting more and more activity. I'd have to say that there's a lot of supply chain jobs that are being filled now, as you would expect. You know, purchasing, procurement, delivery, logistics kind of jobs. Also some IT jobs, technical jobs. Allied health, I would say, like insurance, not so much providers. So those are still some very hot areas. More and more companies are starting to figure out how to do the hiring and the onboarding and the work from home without ever meeting face to face. And so I think that'll just continue. I think it's going to be a new trend, even when a vaccine for COVID is discovered and available. So if you'd like to have a practice interview, and we give you a chance to check out your equipment, see how you look, we record these interviews, and then you get the files, and then after you pick them up, then they're deleted, so they're not on the internet. We also give you a chance to, build your confidence that you can handle any interview situation, so we don't shy away from asking some of the tougher questions, like what are your salary requirements? Why did you leave your last job? Don't you think you're overqualified? Those kinds of things. And so in that way, we get you ready for any interview situation, any interviewer, difficult or easy. So, and you do that by sending in a job description and your resume. And we have a group of volunteers. There we go. Jeff circling the email address for the Dallas Pit Crew, and I'll put it on the chat window. So we give you a very personalized and customized interview experience based on the information you provide. So we'll ask you, about the company that's involved and about your experience and expertise, your achievements. So it'll be very, very customized to that job description. And you can practice as many times as you want, right? So as many job descriptions as you have engaged in or would like to be engaged in, you can just do those one after the other. And each time you come back, we'll try to get you a different panel so you're exposed to some different personalities and some different perspectives, all, and towards our goal of increasing your confidence that you can do well in any interview situation. So I also encourage you to link in with me. I don't know if Jeff has my LinkedIn profile.
No, sorry.
Not in this one. But the way you do that is you look for Mark, initial A, McDonald. That A in the middle will help you find me pretty quickly. And I had a long career in the telecommunications equipment industry, mostly in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. So I have a lot of local connections that once you join my network will be second connections for you. And I think you'll find some benefit there having a wider network. So I welcome you to send me an invitation and I'll accept. Want to talk about the virtual pit crew now? Yeah, so when we used to meet face to face, we would spend the last 15 or 20 minutes of the meeting having an education session, which Jeff has now helped us to formalize into a weekly webinar. So Walt, and I don't think Walt's here today. He had a computer meltdown. Walt and I present different perspectives on different topics about interviewing. We have 13 topics and we're almost through the cycle. So next Wednesday, we will have the 13th session, and that one's about common mistakes that interviewers make. The first 12 are available on YouTube, on the Career USA YouTube channel that Jeff sets up. And then we're going to have about 3 weeks of special topics. One of them will be on having a positive attitude, and a couple of more on comprehensive interviewing presentations. And then we'll start the cycle over at the beginning, the first Wednesday in August, the 13-week cycle will start over. So I encourage you to go look at the Career USA YouTube channel and see what all the topics are. I'm sure you're going to find something there that could help you. And we get pretty in depth. We have an hour and sometimes we take a little longer. So we cover them pretty thoroughly.
Mark, thank you very, very much. Like I said, Walt's not with us today. So we want to move on to the career tip of the week. So it's available every week on the Career DFW, careerusa.org website. So Sue Ellen, good morning.
Good morning, Jeff, and good morning, everyone. Today I'm going to tell you about 11 tips on how to nail remote online interviews. It was written by William Komkowicz. COVID-19 has greatly accelerated the trend to online interviews. Many interviews are now more likely than not to be completely remote via Zoom, Skype, FaceTime, or other video conference app rather than in person. There was once a time when an HR individual could scoff at the idea of an interview over Skype or Google Hangouts. Now these are tools that they need to use to do their jobs. So virtual interviews are probably here to stay. Remote interviews open opportunities since they overcome geographical barriers. The individual being interviewed doesn't have to get to a studio, and the video team doesn't have to traipse to the executive's office. It's all done on an individual's computer at their own desk. But remote interviews now pose pitfalls. Technical glitches pose risks, as do interruptions from noisy children and pets. Experts offer these recommendations to avoid those pitfalls and complete interviews that produce stellar results. Find out what to expect. Companies run their interviews differently. They use different apps and different formats. Some companies ask you to pre-record your answers to standard questions. Ask plenty of questions and view examples of remote interviews to make sure you understand what's expected. Number 1, pitch remote access. Mention that you're happy to participate in an online interview. Avoid offering in-person interviews, as that's inappropriate in the current COVID climate. Number 2, lighting. Beware of ambient lighting. Make sure to turn off overhead lighting. If there is a window in the room, ensure you are facing it directly and there is no light coming in behind the camera or on the side of your face where it can create shadows. Draw the shade or blinds if the light is too bright and whiting out your face. Use a key light from well above eye level or natural light that is directly on your face to ensure you are properly lit. If possible, use a smaller secondary light from behind and above you, or a light reflecting off the ceiling to highlight your hair and eliminate shadows. Number 3, daylight casts a blue tone. Standard incandescent bulbs cast a yellow tone. LED bulbs can be either blue or yellow. Check that the lighting you're using produces a natural skin tone. If you need to supplement outside daylight, use a blue LED bulb for consistent lighting. Number 4, mind the background and dress code. Viewers inspect and comment on backgrounds in home interviews. It's become a thing. Avoid cluttered backgrounds. Be sure your background doesn't include any embarrassing details. It's also best to remove personal details such as pictures of children. Ask in advance about dress code at the company. It's usually best to mimic the style of the interviewer. Neutral colors work best in remote broadcasts. Avoid clothes that clash with or disappear into your background. You don't want a brown suit against a brown bookcase or a flowered dress against a floral painting. And don't wear anything with a tiny pattern like a check. Number 5, sound. As much as possible, make sure the room is quiet and the interview won't be interrupted by unexpected noises, children, or spouses in bathrobes. Choose a quiet location in the house. Avoid high-ceiling rooms with no carpet. You're more likely to get an echo if it's just bare walls. Avoid appliances and vents that produce an audible hum or hiss. Politely ask your family or roommate not to disturb you and give pets a toy to keep them busy. Check your audio and use of high-quality microphone if available. Do a trial to test both video and audio quality. Number 6, raise the interview to a new level. A common shortcoming with many online interviews is that the camera is not elevated. Raise laptops so they're level with your face. Use books or boxes if needed, as long as they are stable. Number 7, look at the camera. Conventional advice recommends looking people in the eye during interviews, but looking at the interviewer on the screen creates the appearance of avoiding eye contact on television. Maintain eye contact with the webcam, not the interviewer. Look down the barrel of the lens to create the impression of eye contact. Number 8, maintain erect posture. An interview is not a time for sloppy posture. Avoid using your desk chair. A straight chair without wheels or a back tilting is best for an interview to help you sit up erect and maintain the position directly in front of the camera. The erect position also helps you project better and maybe even think more quickly and clearly. Number 9, prepare as usual. Don't be lulled into a false sense of security by the more relaxed home environment. You still need to prepare properly. Research the company to understand its perspective and arena. Prepare responses to expected questions and plan how you'll relay your intended message. Some people advise preparing notes, but glancing away breaks eye contact with viewers. Make the interviewee appear shifty or uncomfortable. If you need bullet point notes, put them to the side of your camera at the same level so that you can see them without having to glance away from the camera. Number 10, prepare for tough questions. Facing difficult questions in media interviews is a major media relations challenge. Mastering the techniques of giving clear answers, restructuring questions, and deflecting off-target questions can help assure that your message is delivered effectively. Number 11, measure results. Keep track of who was on the call and remember the name of anyone you felt you really connected with so you can follow up with them or the hiring manager. Write some notes immediately after the call while it is still fresh in your mind regarding good points and things you'll need to work on before the next interview. Bottom line, knowing how to avoid common pitfalls of online interviews is now an essential skill for any job seeker. Even if social distancing guidelines ease, remote interviews will probably remain common. Good luck.
So, thank you very much. And it was sort of funny when you were talking about distractions and stuff. Bobby was walking down the beach behind you. You could see him pop in and out of the screen. So it was pretty funny to watch.
Well, he didn't have a bathrobe on.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Well, at least he looked decent. Right. Well, thank you very much. I know the article was written towards media interviews, but I thought all the topics that were in there were, applicable to what we're doing and what you will be doing when you do future interviews and stuff. So that's why I posted this article. All right. So it's time for our video clip of the week. So I hope everybody enjoyed that. It was, I found that and I thought, okay, well, that's what happens when I guess you have too much time at home. So, all righty, let's see here. Okay, so coming up here in just a few minutes, we're going to start talking, we'll talk about how to use Google Voice, and then we'll have open forum for the rest of the time. We'll answer all the questions you've got about your job search. Coming up next week, we're going to have a labor law attorney with us. I'll put an email out probably on Monday. If you have any questions about, what's going on now or just labor law questions in general, you can send them to me and I will forward it on to our speaker. So she'll try to make sure she covers them. The one rule of thumb is she cannot talk about anything specific because she works for companies, not for employees. So she would be the person on the other side of the table if you were to sue somebody or be in trouble, whatever. She's the one protecting companies. So it's from her point of view. So next week we'll be talking about labor law. It's always a fascinating topic. And I think now, especially with everything going on, being stuck at home, should be some interesting nuances to add to it. On July 17th, J.R. Better will be with us to talk about networking the old-fashioned way. And then Minna Brown will be with us on July 24th to talk about the one-page bio. And I don't have on here the last Friday of the month, John Jacobs, who is the Vice President in charge of the Richardson Economic Development Board, will be with us to tell us what's going on in Richardson and the surrounding communities. So we've got some great speakers lined up for the month of July. Just as a little note, especially for those people who are watching on Facebook right now, Career DFW and the Career and the North Dallas Plano Focus Group are two separate organizations. We're broadcasting live on the Career DFW Facebook page just because it's an easy avenue to allow more people to view it outside the DFW area and those people who don't have a Zoom account. But we are two different organizations. The only common thread is that I happen to lead both. You're welcome to overthrow me on the North Dallas Plano Focus Group, and you can put all these slides together and schedule the speakers, but you're not going to get Career DFW out of my hands. I just need to throw that out there. Okay, so it's time for the main event now. We're going to talk about how to use a Google Voice. Our speaker today is Kelly McLean. She's a learning and development manager, a project manager, and we really appreciate her putting this presentation together to sort of tell us how to do it. I know it was a topic that came up a month ago, and it was really important. We said, all right, well, who can talk about that? And Kelly said, I'll talk about it. So hopefully you will enjoy her presentation. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and Kelly, it's up to you. Kelly, you need to unmute your mic.
There we go. Good morning, everyone. I'm just going to qualify that a little bit. Actually, it was Jeff Morris who volunteered me for this topic. So, so I'm happy to help out and oblige, sir. All right, if you'll give us just a moment, I'm going to switch over to my presentation, and hopefully this will go smoothly and you'll see the results. Okay, Jeff, could you give me some feedback? Do you see the presentation in full screen?
Yes, looks great.
Oh, good. Okay, super. All right, everyone, again, good morning. My name is Kelly McLean, and I am a training and development professional. Now, there are two things that I know to be true for me. One, I'm a lifelong learner, and two, I love to share my knowledge and resources with others. So when Jeff asked me to share information with a group on Google Voice, I was happy to do that. Now, I like to give credit where credit is due, and that actually goes to a participant of the Career Focus Group who originally shared this tip with me on Google Voice. Now, also, I'd just like to take a moment to thank the other people who make the Career Focus Group the community that it is. Not only is it led by Jeff Morris, but we have the wonderful contributions of Mr. Walt Glass, Mr. Mark McDonald, Mr. Eldon Zorinsky, and then, of course, the dynamic duo of Bobby and Sue Ellen Wren. So thank you for all you do for us. So I'm happy to share today what I know with Google Voice. Now, a copy of the presentation is going to be available to you via the chat for download. And also in the chat, you can enter your questions there. Now we have about 15 minutes approximately for the presentation. So I'm going to ask that we hold the questions until the end of the presentation to ensure we have time for the content. Now, before we get started, I just want to make one very big disclaimer. I am not a Google Voice subject matter expert. Okay, it is a tool that I use in my toolkit, and I'm happy to share with you its features and benefits so that you might find value in it as well. So this is a newly created presentation and the first time I'm delivering it, but I think what it'll do is provide you with your need to know information. And again, I'll provide you with additional resources if you want to take action and indeed start using Google Voice. So let's go ahead and get started. And the first screen, let's see, we're going to move, and give me a moment as we figure out our mouse. It was kind of being a little finicky earlier. So let's see. Do you see it change on your screen or no, Jeff?
No, it did not. It did not change.
Everybody, if you'll give me a moment, I'm working with two different monitors, and I just want to make sure, let's see here, that we're on the right monitor. Okay, it's moving on my other screen.
I see your mouse moving now on the screen.
Hello. Okay, there we go. Let's see this. Oh, good. Woohoo. All right. Tech gods are smiling on us today. Okay, so a little bit for our agenda. What I'd like to do is focus on, and sorry, I'm going to have a dual focus here as far as what I'm looking at. For the agenda, Google Voice, I want to give you an overview of what it is. And then in training, there's a common concept called WIFM. So what's in it for me? So I want to just share with you some ideas as to how you might use a Google Voice number as part of your job search. Then we're going to get started and look at the setup, some of the things that you need to know, and then I'll cover usage, some of the filters and settings that you might want to work with to customize it for your needs. And then I'll leave you with some resources at the end. Okay, now one of the things I wanted to make clear from the start is, in part, when you're setting up Google Voice, it's easiest to set it up using the web, using your laptop, okay, or computer. That's where you're selecting your Google Voice number, you're using your filters and settings, etc. And then at that point, the real value comes in when you download the Google Voice app to your mobile phone. Now, just to also mention, the app is available for both iOS, Apple, and then Android. So I think that runs on Samsung. So if you have a Samsung mobile phone. And really, I think that's where you're going to get the most value out of Google Voice, because most of us, until we were sheltering in place, were very mobile. And here it provides you a lot of just value added when you're working with it on your phone versus your computer. So we'll take a look at that, but I wanted to be clear for the first part of the presentation. I'm going to show you how to set it up on your computer, and then we'll take a look in the phone, what you can do. All right. Okay, so what is Google Voice? This actually was pulled directly from their marketing materials, the information on the left. But the key takeaways for you is, one, it's free. So free is good. You know, we all probably pay our cell phone bill every month, and you know, that's a cost. But with Google Voice, it allows you to have a second phone number at no cost. Now, that's within the United States. Now, as a matter of fact, if you have a need, you can use this for international calls, but from my understanding, there is a bit of a fee. So you'll have to make payment arrangements in order to set that up. The other thing is, as you can see to the right, it works both on your computer and your smartphone. So potentially, if you did want to call and receive via your laptop, you can do that. Now, I'm going to give you a tip about that. I had a setting set up on my laptop to receive calls via my laptop the other day, and I was on a Zoom call, and then, you know, my laptop started ringing. So I was like, oh my gosh, what is that? So that's definitely a filter you can turn off, and I'll show you how to do that later on. But again, it really does have a lot of the same features that you would expect with your mobile phone: the ability to make and receive a call, send and receive texts, and also create a custom voicemail message, which is nice, especially when you're in job search. Okay, so the what's in it for me. Now, I think the strongest case that I could make to you for if you are in job transition is protecting your personal information that's out in the public domain. So just as you might have a dedicated email account for your job search, I'm suggesting that you use Google Voice for a dedicated phone number. When you think about it and look at this really exhaustive list here, there's so much information that's made available. Now, whether that's your personal professional marketing materials, your resume, business cards, email signature, LinkedIn profile, all of that is online. And then when you think about it, anytime you post information on the job boards or any company's ATS system when you apply, and then of course, the networking, whether it's in person or online. And then when you are networking, you might be doing that at professional associations, job search groups like this. Also, you know, an added benefit, I might say, is if you start a side gig, say a business or a consulting firm, I did for training and development. So this is the phone number that I use, my Google Voice, for my business. And then of course, recorded webinars like this. It's amazing that we have so much information that's available online to us these days. Jeff and so many others haven't missed a beat as far as taking these communities online and making them available to us. But also, this is another way where your contact information might wind up in the public domain via YouTube. So, these are some of the reasons why it might be relevant to you. Okay, so setting up your Google Voice number. So really what we're doing with this slide is you're going to see the information on the left. I've given you some steps to follow, which might be convenient later when you're looking at the presentation on your own and perhaps setting up an account, and then the information on the right. Now, like with most technologies, there might be different ways of approaching it. This is one way. So very clearly, what you're going to do is use your Google Chrome to navigate, Google Chrome browser, to navigate to google.com. Okay, once you're there in the search box, you'll want to type in Google Voice. When you do, you're going to see this screen, and here you can sign in. Now, as far as sign in, I want to be clear about one thing. You do need a Google email account or a Google account in order to create a Google Voice account, get a Google Voice number. And that makes sense, and you're going to see later where you can actually forward voicemail to an email account. Well, that needs to be a Gmail. So if you haven't created a customized, dedicated email for your job search until this point, maybe here's your opportunity to really create your Google Gmail, and then from there, create your Google Voice phone number, okay? So you're gonna sign in. It's asking you to sign into your Google Gmail, and then, sign in and sign into your Google account. Okay, good. Now there's one little tip here too. Set up voice. Now remember I said I'm not a subject matter expert on this, but I do use this as a tool. So here, this is going to be a great area for you to learn more. If you are on the fence and deciding whether or not you want to create a Google Voice phone number. So go there, and that should help you. All right, the next thing. Now, this is some friendly tips as far as selecting your Google Voice number. Now, you can search for your Google Voice number by area code, or you can search by city. All right, so if we think of the Dallas area, we have 214-972-469, multiple zip codes that we could use. So the first screen image that you're seeing, this is a search by the 972 area code. But what you're going to notice is under 972, there are multiple cities. There's Richardson, McKinney, even Irving, and also Plano is one of those. Well, maybe I actually want to be more specific and create a 972 area code Google Voice number, but I want to ensure that it's associated with the city in which I reside. So if you take a look on the far right image, you're going to see I searched by Plano, Texas, and then it created a list of available Google Voice numbers for me. Now, having said that, you can also click on Show More, and it'll show you an even more comprehensive list of available numbers. Just a tip, since this is a phone number that you're going to be using in potentially multiple locations, take your time, look through, and find one that works for you, maybe something that you can quickly memorize. So for our example, what I used was 972-836-7417. That just kind of seemed to work for me. So once you've chosen your Google Voice number, you simply click the select button to select that. Okay. Now moving on, here are just some, again, step-by-step things that you'll encounter when you set up your Google Voice number. You'll want to verify that that's the number you want to select. Then here, linking. Okay, so a word about linking. What you're doing is you are selecting a Google Voice phone number to link to your potentially mobile phone. Now that could also be linked to a business phone. It could be linked to a home landline. You have many options. Well, what you're doing is basically saying, I want to link this Google Voice phone number so it will ring through to the linked phone, in this case, my cell phone number. So in that box, you're going to want to include your potentially cell phone number, click send code, and then in verifying that process, you'll ultimately get to another screen where you'll click on finish, and that finishes the process. So again, pretty easy setup. Okay, this is a busy screen, all right? From an instructional design standpoint, it's a no-no, but this is what you're gonna see. So over to the far left, let me just kind of walk you through the elements here. If you are on screen, so you've set this up on your computer, you're on the web, this is the web page you're seeing. To the left, you're going to see a menu, all right? Call, messages, voicemail, etc. One of the things that you'll see is under voicemail, so number one, here over to the right then, you'll probably receive a Google Voice welcome email, okay? So here, number two, this is a list of the text messages or voicemail messages that you've received rather, okay? And then what's interesting as far as taking voice and turning it to text, that's what you see here, number three. So the actual voicemail is displayed on screen as text, and then down below where you see this little play icon, you can actually play and hear the message, all right? Number four, up here, this area, when you set up your Google Voice, this will be helpful. This will help you with audio. So that's if you're making and calling via your computer. And then here, the question mark, that's help. Check that out. There'll be a lot of good information for the questions you'll have about your account and setting things up and filters. And then also settings. Now we're going to spend some time in settings. That's a little gear icon. And I'm going to help you with some tips that I've learned as far as which settings to choose. And then number five down here, this is again, if you're on your computer and you want to place a call from your computer. Okay, so hopefully that kind of worked. All right, so where we are now is under that settings option. And you do want to spend some time here. Not only kind of customizing the features that are relevant to you, but also playing with them. Now, we're going to go through several slides for this for settings, so you have the information that you need to know. But what I would encourage you to do is, if you do set up a Google Voice number, get with your accountability partner or someone else from this focus group, the career focus group, and play with the different features and settings to see what indeed works for you, okay? But for this, these are some basics. Now, on these slides, I'm actually using my account information, so you'll see some things kind of blanked out here, for example, Google Voice number. So if you're wondering why you're seeing that on screen. But okay, these are your basic account information. So it's showing you your Google Voice number. You can change that, you can delete that. And then also what's important is my devices. So right now I have Google Voice as an option on both my laptop, so that's web-based, and then also my iOS device, that's my iPhone, okay? And then also for linked numbers, this is where, as I mentioned, what's interesting about Google Voice, not only can you have it ring through to your mobile phone, but also potentially a landline, a business number, multiple phones, which is really interesting. So you might want to explore that as well. Okay. Messages. Now I'm giving you some tips over to the left. So these are things that I've learned along the way, and forgive me if I kind of read verbatim from the slide, but there are some things that you might want to know here. Okay, forwarding messages. And again, keep in mind, these are optional, so play with them and find out what works for you. But turn off forward messages to linked numbers, iOS device, mobile. So I say why? A received text message will appear in two locations: the Google Voice app, okay, in the text message portion on your phone, and your mobile phone text messages. And so one, there's duplication, which can be inconvenient. If you want to delete that, you're deleting it in two places. And then it can also lead to errors. And I experienced this firsthand, because if you say you receive a text message that comes in, and that goes to your Google Voice app on your phone, so you see it there, but it also goes to your text app as a regular part of your Apple iPhone. Maybe you respond via the text message in your Apple iPhone. Well, what happens is the recipient is now seeing your response from your mobile phone number, the thing that you're really trying to avoid. So in order to avoid this confusion, have it just go one place is my recommendation. And you do that by turning off forward messages to linked numbers. Okay, that way it'll just appear in your Google app, Google Voice app on your phone and make it more convenient. Then also turn off forward messages to email. Why? The Google Voice app notifies you of the text message. So on your mobile phone, you'll see the Voice app, and it'll have, for example, a little red 1. So it'll notify you that there is a message coming through. You can send a copy to email. I think it's a little redundant, but again, play with the options. Okay, so we're going to go through just a few more of these settings and what you might need to know. Some other things here, my devices. So this is for calls. Turn off web option if not using to answer calls. Turn on iOS device mobile phone. So as I mentioned the other day, I learned that this option for web was on. So I'm on a Zoom call one-on-one, and all of a sudden my laptop starts ringing, and I'm like, oh my gosh, and I didn't want to stop and try to figure out, how to make it stop. So I just let it ring through. But, if you don't have any intention of using your laptop to place or receive calls, go ahead and turn it off. Maybe if you're in a foreign country and you're traveling, there might be a benefit there, but, most people are probably just going to have it ring through on the mobile phone. And that's the setting I have here chosen. Now, I don't want to spend too much time on this, but notice the big question mark by screen calls. So I've trained on a lot of software, and this was really odd to me. It seems that there are two different functionalities that are linked to this filter. So this is one that I suggest you test on your own and see what works for you. So if we take it at face value, what screen calls is saying is hear a caller's name when you pick up. So what this forces you to do, say for example, a recruiter is calling you on your Google Voice number about a job that you've applied for. Well, this would make them identify themselves as, Jane Doe recruiter in a voice recording before they got to you live. And what's interesting, when I tried this last night with a friend of mine, if I picked up, I would hear them announcing themselves, and then they would be there live. But the opposite, which was really interesting, is if I didn't pick up and it rang through, it would actually go as a missed incoming call to my mobile phone, to the Google voicemail app, voicemail box, which is good because I want to send things there. I want to keep it out of my personal iPhone inbox, correct? So that worked great, and also when I'm in my Google Voice app, I can play back the audio of that voicemail message that was left for me, and I can see the text transcription, which is really helpful. However, and that's why I placed this big caveat, if the call is not sent to Google Voice app, voicemail box, and instead you answer the call, as I mentioned, it forces the caller to first identify themselves. The recording is announced when you answer the call and prior to hearing the caller's live voice. As I said, this is a question mark and something to be explored a little bit more. I'm not sure if once you hear that voice, and this is called screen calls, if I would have an option to not pick up the call and send it to voicemail. I'm not sure. So we want to play with that a little bit better. But the point I'm making is when you're using this, the filters you choose here will impact what goes to your Google Voice app and what goes to your regular text message box or personal voicemail box. Okay, so play with these features. All right. Do not disturb, always a convenient option. I know we get a lot of unwanted calls, maybe robocalls, or perhaps if you're in a meeting, you might want to turn this feature on. Okay, voicemail. So here with these settings, you can record a greeting. Again, we're on the web base. That's what you're seeing for the screenshots. You can record the greeting, manage the greeting. And what I'm going to give you here as the tip I've learned is when you record your customized Google Voice greeting, do that on your mobile phone. So once you've downloaded the Google Voice app, you're in the app, there's an option there for you to record your personal voicemail box greeting for that phone number. The audio quality will be better than if you tried to do it via the audio speakers on your computer, okay? Let's see. And here I have another tip. Again, all these are optional. Turn on get voicemail via email for transcribed voicemail messages on your email. So what this does is basically just send a notice to you via email that you have a voicemail box or a voicemail waiting for you. Again, it could be a little bit redundant, but perhaps if you're in a meeting and you have to turn off your cell phone, but yet you have access to your laptop, that email notification might be helpful. So again, these are options you can check out and play with. All right, there is also a spam filter. I know I get a lot of robocalls and spam on my mobile phone, so you might find that helpful. I will say, as long as I've had Google Voice, which has been about 2 years now, I've never gotten a spam call, so it really a non-issue, thankfully. All right, so at this point, we're almost done with the presentation, but I want to kind of recap where we've been and what happens next. So everything that I've shown you so far was how you would select a Google Voice number and use the different settings to filter based on the features you want to use. So all of that was done on the web. But now we're going to move to the Google Voice app on your phone. So with this, now I drink apple Kool-Aid, so to speak. So I'm a fan of Apple products, but you might have an Android operating system. So the app is available for Android as well. Here's a screenshot in the Apple Store. You are downloading the Google Voice app. This will give you some idea of the different screenshots that are available. And here is kind of the menu. I know that that's small for our purposes in this presentation, but here you have your telephone, you have your texting, you have your voicemail, and then in the top left corner, you have 3 horizontal bars, and those are your settings. So you definitely, once you download it, want to check out your settings, and what you'll see are a lot of the filters that we've just gone through that you saw on the web. Okay, so my next steps after suggested to you after you've set up your Google Voice phone number is download the app and then play with a few features. Again, you know, get together with an accountability buddy, someone with a focus group, and practice making a call, receiving a call, sending, receiving text, using the voicemail options, and that way you'll know what works for you. Okay? All right. So here are some resources. Once you have set up your Google Voice phone number, an easy way to get back to Google Voice on the web and sign in again is this little URL here, voice.google.com/about, and it'll ask you to sign in. So you'll be signing into your Google Voice. And then also I found some YouTube tutorials. So I'm not saying they're the best of the web, but as I searched, I thought that they were, you know, pretty informative and can get you up to speed quickly. So the one here, this focuses on using the Google Voice app for iPhone. It's about 5 minutes. And then the other is Google Voice setup for the web. So it's actually a teacher who put this together. It's about 12 minutes, but it does a nice job of walking through all the different options on the web that you're looking at when you first set it up. So as I mentioned, you know, I hope that this is helpful for you. I'm not a subject matter expert on Google Voice. I'm just I know it's a great and valuable tool in my toolkit. And it was nice to put together this information for you, share it, and happy to oblige again, Jeff and his group at Career Focus Group, because you do so much for us and our community. So at this point, if I just want to say again, thank you. If you have any questions, I'll try to answer them. I'm probably at time now, but also please use the resources that I've shared with you, both that are contained in my presentation and then on YouTube, and then also Google Voice itself under that, you know, learn more. So, so that's what I have for you today. I'll go ahead and stop sharing my presentation, Jeff, and turn it back to you if you do have any questions. If we still have time, I'd be happy to try to answer them.
Yep. Okay. We do have several questions. Number one, on Facebook, Arthur asked, will the presentation be made available to those who are watching on Facebook? Kelly's going to take the PowerPoint that she has. She's converted it to a PDF. She will put it into the chat box for everybody on Zoom. For everybody else, I will forward it along as long as I've got your name listed on the roster today. I will forward it also this afternoon when I send out the email with everybody who's attended. I'll attach it to that email. And for those of you on Zoom, just make sure that I know who you are, okay? So make sure I have an email address so that I can contact, and add you to our roster. So for Sandra, I don't know about Michael. Christina, I know is on the list. Arthur, I know you're on the list, so you'll get an email this afternoon. But for anybody else who's watching, please make sure your information's in there so we can get it to you. Okay, so let's see, questions. Let's see here. Other questions people had. Let's see here. Make sure you hit the first one here. I think the first question was, can I port my Vantage number to Google Voice? That'd be
Yeah, I am so sorry. And I think this might be a refrain you hear, I don't know. So I would definitely point you to the information in the help section on Google Voice. Again, Google offers a lot of documentation on this. So perhaps you'll find your answer there. If not, they might even have a user group that you could post the question and perhaps get an answer.
Okay. Cheryl asked, can you forward to Google Voice from your cell phone and vice versa?
Cheryl, again, I'm new to this. This is the first time I've put together content on this topic. I think I saw that as an option, which was really interesting, that once you have that Google Voice set up, not only can you forward it to phones, but you have a lot of controls of forwarding it, I believe, to another phone as well. It was something like a press star option. So again, I reference the help section to you. You might want to check that out, but I think I came across that in my cursory research.
Great, thank you. All right, let's see here. Cliff asked a question. I understand the convenience of Google Voice, but how does using Google Voice make things more secure, as indicated earlier in the presentation?
Sure. Hi, Cliff. Thank you for your question. I'll just share a personal story with you. For example, like many people, I'm a cell phone only household. So I have had my mobile number for 15 years. And needless to say, if it were to go corrupt, it would really be devastating because that's the way that my friends and family know to get in touch with me. So when I began my job transition experience, I knew it was important to me that if I'm putting all of this information, my contact information out in the public domain, my resume, my business cards, my LinkedIn profile, and saying, hey, I'm here, contact me. I really didn't want it to be my one lifeline of my personal mobile phone that I'm putting out there on the chance that it could become corrupt. So as far as security, I do suggest Google Voice as an option for you. Again, it's free, which is brilliant. It's convenient because, again, it can ring through to your mobile phone and offer you a lot of settings and options, again, voice, text, etc. But if that went corrupt, so as far as the security, if that went corrupt, you can delete it and pick another phone number. So that's going to be a heck of a lot easier, I think, than me having my one mobile phone go corrupt and having to work with AT&T. So that's my suggestion to you and the rationale.
All right, see, Barbara asked, for the person that only has a cell phone, so now there are two numbers coming in. How do you recognize people who are calling the original number versus calling the Google number? Can you tell which kind of call is coming in?
Yes, Barbara, I haven't explored that myself to a great extent, but I'll share with you in the resource on the last page of the presentation, the link to the YouTube video where it says the Google Voice app for iPhone. The gentleman there covers it. There is a setting that you choose, a filter you turn on, and as a result, you'll be able to know that it is a call coming in to your Google Voice and not your regular mobile phone. And also, again, the importance of downloading that Google Voice app and using that as your smartphone, because that also provides you a lot of functionality as well. So check that out in the YouTube video.
All right, you see another question on Facebook. They're asking, can you use your laptop to make calls? And I think you already answered that.
Yeah.
Depend on the quality of your, the microphone and whatever you're using to talk with. They also, another question is this, does Google Voice have caller ID? So do you know who's calling?
You know, I think again, sorry to keep pointing you back to the actual Google Voice resources and help section, but I think you'll get a more comprehensive answer there. What I've learned in my short time of discovery is there are some caller ID options, but I think again, how that works is with the filters. So again, play with it. If you have a filter, I believe it's turned off, and they're calling your Google Voice that's ringing through to your mobile, it will show you the person calling, their caller ID. For example, I tried that last night with my neighbor and her name came up. But when I turned that filter off, it would ring through, but I wouldn't know who was calling. So it's kind of, again, some of these aren't the best. I wish the functionality of some of these features were a little bit different and more user-friendly. But again, I suggest, trying that, but there is a way to do it, but there's a trade-off.
Mark, I see you've got, Mark McDonald has been using a Google Voice number because that's what the Dallas Pit Crew uses for that phone number. Do you have any comments or?
Yeah, and Barbara just addressed that. So there may be a switch for this, but yeah, I've been using Google Voice for 5 or 6 years now, and I have it set up to forward to my cell phone. The caller ID does not come through. It just says, it uses, the Dallas Pit Crew is the Gmail address, and so what shows up on my phone is a call from Dallas Pit Crew.
Yeah.
So I do not see the number. Now after Kelly's talk, I'm gonna go look and see if I can switch that. I can find the number if I want to by going to the application, okay? And when it texts me, sometimes if my phone's off, maybe this is another option, it will automatically record it. So the only way you could find out what the message was to go to the application, and there it will show the caller ID and who called you. But if you forward it to your phone, it by default it doesn't show up. The caller ID doesn't show up.
Thank you, Mark. And I'll just, again, not to be redundant, but to chime in my cursory experience with this, I've seen what you've shared. And that's where, again, in that 5-minute YouTube video, I encourage people to check it out because he talks about that if you want to know, like Barbara said, how do I know it's a call coming in to my Google Voice? Well, if you want to know that that's the case, there's an option you turn on, but how it rings through is with your Google Voice number. And that's how you know it's coming into your Google Voice. But I think the trade-off is you don't know who's calling you. Whereas if you have that option turned off, it's going to ring through and it'll show it's my neighbor, but I don't know whether she's calling my Google Voice or my actual mobile phone number, which she has. So, again, some trade-offs and some things to play with. But thanks for sharing, Mark.
Yeah, thanks, Kelly. Great presentation.
I have something to add on that. If on your phone, I have an Android phone and I use Google Voice. The number will show up on Google Voice if the phone number is saved as a contact in your Google contacts. So when you have information on your phone, you can select whether like, let's say my mother's phone number. I do not have her, well, right now I have her saved as a Google contact. And so if she were to call me on either phone number, her name would show up. It would recognize that and it would notify me who's calling. So, but I guess, sorry, that's kind of the, sorry, I'm having a little bit of trouble communicating here, but so yes, it will show up if it's like, I've received calls from businesses whose number is on Google, and that the name of that business will show up because that number is on the Google, in the Google system. And also, depending on my contacts, the only thing about that is if you add a contact from your personal cell phone into your Google contacts, you are sacrificing a little bit of privacy at that point, because then like recently I changed over phones and I decided to do it through Google Contacts. Well, then when I went into Facebook, it said, oh, hey, this person and this person. It was a bunch of people I was connected with professionally that I had no Facebook connection with. But now all of a sudden, since I had connected that information into my Google contacts, it then, was suggesting I should connect with all these people on Facebook. So that's you're aware of, if you do add a contact into your Google contacts, then at that point you are sacrificing a little bit of privacy on that side.
If I could piggyback on that, Carlos, thank you so much for sharing. And that's a really relevant point. I think everyone on this call understands now that there are a lot of functions and features, and it's important to figure out what works for you. Carlos brought up a really excellent point that I didn't even get a chance to hit on, is you do have that contact capability within Google Voice. And again, that might impact what information you're seeing from a caller ID. So if that person's number is there, it might come up with that ID. Again, something to play with. Now, for me, I'll just tell you, as a person in transition, I keep it simple. What I need from Google Voice is a dedicated, voicemail at a dedicated phone number at no cost that I can use, put out in my personal professional marketing materials, so to speak, a LinkedIn contact, for example, and feel secure, have it ring through to my mobile phone for convenience, but feel secure that my information is protected. So if you do want to use the more advanced features, importing contacts into Google Voice because maybe the caller ID works, go for it. I just keep it simple. Hey, somebody's calling me, and I know that my personal information's safe. So that's kind of how I approach it. But thank you, Carlos, for sharing that. That's a good feature for people to check out.
And Kelly, this is Barbara, and that is the original intent of my question, was just, all I care about is, in the phone's ringing, can I tell if it's a personal call coming in or a business call coming in? That's really all I care about. And if it's a business call, I'm not going to recognize any of those numbers, so that's a moot point for me.
Exactly. So check out that quick YouTube video. It addresses that, and it's just a filter. So again, it might ring through with your actual Google Voice number, but that's the thing that's going to alert you. Oh, it's a business call. So okay.
Kelly, great presentation.
Thank you so much, everyone. It was my pleasure to share. Are there any other questions, Jeff? Or
that's all I've got so far, unless somebody else has a question or a comment about Google Voice.
Okay, thank you, everybody. It was my joy to learn more about this topic, share with you what I know. I know it's a great tool in my toolkit. Hopefully you'll find value in it as well. And I'll go ahead and put the presentation in the chat box, and you can download it there. So thank you, and thank you, Jeff, for the opportunity.
Kelly, thank you very much. And for those who don't know, like I said, Kelly does, for several years, she did a lot of online training and stuff like this. And come the end of the month, she just found out that she's going to be unemployed and will be back in the market. So if you know somebody who needs to put together these kind of online presentations or training and development, Kelly is the person to contact. So thank you very much, Kelly.
Okay.
All right, so it's open forum. We can talk about whatever it is you want to talk about.
This is Lily. I posted my question 3 places, so Kelly and Jeff, you, and to everyone, but no one noticed it. Actually, I signed up for Google Voice as far back as 2009, I believe. And all I used that for was posting it on my LinkedIn profile so that no one could track me down. And I've always forwarded it to my cell phone. And I also get an email if someone calls me on my Google Voice. I can even listen to the voicemail through my email. So that's it. But I've never gone to the website that Kelly presented now, and I've logged into my Gmail account on my laptop. I can't find a way to access that that site, and I don't have the Google Voice app. So it's been working okay for me, just the way I set it up in 2009. So how do I access that website?
Well, just go to Google, go to the Google search, type in Google Voice.
I did.
And
I didn't think.
click on
I'll figure it out, I guess. I'll just go to the website. Yeah.
Do you have Gmail?
I do. I've logged onto it right now on my laptop.
Pretty simple. Go to Gmail.
Mm-hmm.
Next, just to the left of your picture is a little grid. Click
Yes.
grid.
Yeah.
Click on voice.
And that's where I looked first. I'm not even
Scroll
seeing
down.
voice on
There's a
there.
lot of apps there.
Yes,
Scroll down. You should see one that is voice.
I didn't. That's why I'm asking. So maybe I just have to say more from Google,
Yeah,
maybe.
say more.
Yeah, that's what it is. All right, I'll figure it out. I just thought
Lily,
someone may have an answer.
I'll go ahead and privately chat my email address to me, or I'm sorry, email address to you. And if you
Thank
want,
you.
I'd be happy to try to troubleshoot. Again, it's simply a tool I use, but together I bet we can be tenacious and figure it out and get it working for what you need it to do. So I'll go ahead and send you that information and you can
Thank
feel
you.
free. You
Thank
bet.
you.
My pleasure.
Thank you
Okay,
for
so
the
what else would
presentation.
somebody like to talk about? A subject coming up. Thank you all for being with us on an official July 4th holiday, but yeah, somebody else have a question? Jeff Miller.
Yeah, this is Jeff Miller. I recently received from LinkedIn that there is now a open to work photo frame available for your picture. And I'm curious if anybody else has tried it or what anybody's thoughts are on it.
That was a very interesting topic. Tuesday, Terry Sullivan and I had a discussion before everybody else went online about it and stuff, because I noticed it hit me the week before and I turned it on to see what it looked like and then I turned it back off. So, you know, I think it's up to each individual. If you want to advertise it, fine. If you don't want to advertise it, that's okay. My point is, if you don't want to advertise it, but underneath where you say you're open to new opportunities and you list 4 or 5 jobs and you say the cities you're on, you're saying it right there that you're open to new opportunities. So if a recruiter is going to be looking for you, they're going to find it. If somebody's looking for you, if somebody's just looking at your profile, but they see you're open to new opportunities not because of the picture frame, but because of the text box underneath it, it's going to tell people you're open to new opportunities. So, you know, I think it's really early. I'm starting to see it pop up more and more. I'm seeing another one that says open to networking, another frame popping up. I don't know. I'm not sure I need that. Personally, I don't know if I need to see that around your picture, because is that going to change my point of view? Probably not. But because if I'm a recruiter I'm looking for the top candidate to pop up in the top couple pages of my list, and I'm not going to skip somebody just because they don't have a picture frame on it. I'm going to look at the top I'm going to look at the first person who comes up and go, well, why is this person, why did this person come up with the keyword search that I put in?
Yeah, Jeff, this is Barbara. I did, it's personal opinion, if it works for you or not. I didn't see the value add because I think the configuration of the tool is going to show that I'm a candidate looking for jobs anyway, and I just didn't necessarily need to frame my face with it. Just my thoughts.
Anybody else, thoughts from anybody else about it?
Yeah, I had it pop up and then I took it off because I hated it. And then when I took it off, it was saying, well, if you don't do this, it won't be open to the public. It'll only limit you. And then I was like, oh, if I don't use it, then no one will see me. It kind of had something on LinkedIn saying, then if you take this off in July or something, it won't show you to everyone. It was like you were going to be penalized if you didn't use it.
Yeah, I think it'll be interesting to see what happens in another month, because maybe what they'll do is they'll hide that box underneath your name saying that, or underneath there saying that here are the new job titles I'm looking for. Now, if they force you to then switch over, then you may have to put it back up. But
yeah, but it's ugly because it like hides half your face.
Yeah.
Right. It makes you have to change and zoom out on your picture so your face is still in there.
Mm-hmm. I hate it.
Any other thoughts? Anybody else comments about it?
Can I just be the cynic here?
Okay.
If Microsoft, that's who owns LinkedIn, wants you to do something really bad, it's because it makes money for them. What are they doing with the information? Why do they want you to use it so bad? That's just, whenever they try and push me in a direction, I always ask why.
Oh yeah, someone said they're selling that to people that are selling services for, recruiters and people that are selling, pay $6,000 and, I'll get you, resume writing and things like that. That's what they're doing. They're selling that kind of thing to people that are looking for work.
Right.
There's your target.
All right. Something else? Somebody else have a question they'd like to, or a topic you'd like to discuss?
Jeff, I have another LinkedIn question.
Okay.
So I'm trying out this networking thing that you guys are teaching us. And so I did identify somebody to contact. And when I pulled him up, he was a third, like second, third. And so I thought, I couldn't figure out really what third means, meaning that I couldn't find out like who, I don't know, was associated with the second person or whatever. So I ended up just reaching out to him and without a successful response, so because I couldn't link anybody with him. So does anybody here know about how, if you have a third, how do you find out who that third is? Uh-oh.
Anybody? I mean, my comment, if you were trying to connect to me, if you were trying to connect with a third degree connection, what I would do is see what groups that person is part of, join that group. Now, I think you've got to maybe wait a week before you can then directly message that person, because you can directly message anybody in a group. So that's why we tell people join groups, join the Career DFW group. We have 12,300 members. Join, and then that would get you maybe one step closer. So join a group, and then you say, oh, I see you're, we're part of the same group. And then you can take it from, you can use the group as a common bond. I don't know if you can do it immediately, and you may be limited with the free account and what exactly you can do.
And I have premium, so I could send them an email, immediately.
That's what I was gonna suggest, is an in-mail, and if there's anything at all, there's ways to research. People have alumni groups that they're in, or if you know something about his field, like for example, there's a group for MBAs in Dallas here, and a lot of people are in that group. So just whatever you can think of in common. I've been pretty lucky with just researching things and clicking with people. But the premium does help. I have premium.
And I think also you have to remember too, because a lot of people may have been off this week. So if you send a message this week, you may not hear back. They may be off for 2 weeks. So they may not be back until July 10th. So don't, or even after that. So don't even, at this point, anything you send out this week or next, there's a chance that nothing's happening just because they're on vacation. And now with everything that's going on, a lot of officers want people to take some vacation time now, especially, I guess everybody hoping that after Labor Day, maybe people are able to get back together. So Kelly, I know you had your hand up.
I do. Barbara, I have a guess and then a suggestion. But again, it's open forum, so here you go. And wanting to be helpful. My guess is at one point, and I too have LinkedIn Premium, I saw in my settings that there's an option. So for me as a user, of selecting who gets to see my contacts. So do I limit it to just the people I'm connected to, like a new person, and then you can see them? Or is it open to everybody? Can you see the secondary things? So under my personal settings, there was something to control that. And I'm wondering if you're trying to connect with someone and you see that they're a third, maybe the reason you're not seeing any additional information is because of the setting, and not on your end, but on their end, what they chose that perhaps is blocking you. The suggestion is, Jeff, is it Ruth Lipsky who does the LinkedIn presentation on Tuesdays? One of the rotating people?
One of the three, yes.
Boy, I've got to say, if you don't know, check out her presentation. It was amazing. Her focus for LinkedIn is how you network into a company, how you network to people. She did things with LinkedIn I'd never seen before. So my thought is that's a great question for her next time she's in the rotation, to ask her when you have that third contract, if she has any ideas how to navigate to them. So
And
there you
if
go.
you're bored this weekend, you can watch her past presentations on the YouTube channel. They're all up there. So her presentations and Locke's presentations are on the YouTube channel. Terry Sullivan doesn't allow me to record his presentation, so you'll have to catch him live again the end of July.
No, that's great feedback, just because from my I'm just honest moment, I feel like I've attended enough LinkedIn sessions, but obviously I haven't. So everybody has different perspectives.
We all
So,
do, and that's why I have 3 different people teaching LinkedIn, because what Locke tells you to do is slightly different than what Ruth tells you to do, and that's slightly different than what Terry tells you to do, and they all come from it from a different aspect. It's the same thing with resumes. You know, you can get 10 professional resume writers together, and they're not going to agree on the perfect format. They're not going to come out with one common thing. It's going to be whoever's the biggest and can bully the other 9 people. So, you know, because everybody wants to see something a little bit different. But with LinkedIn, and LinkedIn is always changing. In fact, I was talking with Terry Sullivan yesterday, and he was saying, because he was asking me about the book I wrote and everything and what the process was, and he'd love to write a book, but he says, I know I can't write a book on LinkedIn because LinkedIn changes every week. Time I write it, it would be obsolete. Cliff's asking Ruth's last name. Her name is Lipsky, Lipsky. Yeah, so it's on there. But if you go to the Career USA YouTube channel, you'll be able to find all the LinkedIn presentations, and it'll say, it should have their name, who presents every time. So, and Ruth will be presenting on the 14th. So if you're interested, next week I'm doing it because Ruth was unavailable. So I'm just filling in for a week, and we're pushing everybody back a week. So Ruth will be with us on the 14th. Locke will be with us on the 21st. And then Terry will be back on the 28th. And Terry has some brand new stuff that he's working on. So we were talking about it. So I'd be interested to see what it looks like and more interactive kinds of things.
I have 2 cents to add on what Barbara asked. I think,
go ahead.
I think, you know, obviously LinkedIn recognizes your first connection, your second, but I think LinkedIn groups everybody who's not your first or second into your third. So I believe that's the case. They group everybody as a third. So you may, even though LinkedIn may say, hey, third connection, it's, you know, it may not be a third connection. It may be a fifth. It just doesn't recognize it as such. I believe, I stand to be corrected. I think that's how it is.
Okay, everybody else?
Oh, no, that helps.
All right, something else we can talk about. Somebody else have a question? Come on, all you smiling faces out there. Let's go, come on. I can't eat lunch for another hour yet.
I have another topic.
Okay.
You know me, I'm always having a question.
Thank you, Barbara. You're keeping us going. We're going to change open forum to Barbara's topics of the day.
So I listened to, that's funny. I listened to the Texas Workforce Commission, little Facebook. I think they do some announcements. I think it's 2 times or 3 times a week. And so, you know, everybody's talking about, you know, taking off that minimum work search requirement, which I've just been ignoring just because I'm doing all my, you know, my stuff. And so I always have little numbers to put in there every week, but including these forums, which do count. And, but there must be some economic reason why they have reverted their decision, right?
Yes,
Meaning
because of unemployment because of the unemployment numbers and because of the COVID numbers going up, because they don't feel it's safe for you to go out and be looking for a job right now. With the COVID numbers going up and up and up the last couple of weeks, they just made a quick decision that, okay, we need to delay this because companies are not going to be hiring. Companies are not going to be looking to bring people back with these numbers going up. So until the numbers start to decrease again, and I was sort of hoping that come July, August, numbers would start to decrease, that employment would pick back up again, and it's not going to pick back up until we can get these numbers under control. And that's why TWC changed their mind. And I'm sure come you know, towards the end of July, we'll get a announcement about what they're going to do in August.
Okay.
I
And,
think
and actually, I'm okay with that. In fact, I'm spending my time on self-development, you know, taking everything that I'm learning from all these sessions and kind of focusing on what I want to do next. You know, I'm taking this time to kind of reflect on this. But at the same time, you know, I do feel a little down when it's like, what successes do we have for the week, right? And there, you know, there's none, or if you communicate it, I don't think we should view that, which I'm just like, oh no. That's not necessarily, you know, a Debbie Downer type of a thing.
people are landing. I'm hearing about
Karen,
landings
it
in
can be
other groups.
noisy.
Okay?
Do you mind?
So don't be disappointed that, you know, there's no landings from this group, because, you know, we'll go weeks, even when we were all meeting in person and unemployment was down to 3%. There were weeks where we didn't have anybody landing in our group, and all of a sudden the next week 5 people would show up and we'd have 10 dozen donuts and be waddling out of the meeting. So, you know, I think it's strictly a people are still landing right now. There are still jobs that need to be filled. It's just a matter, you know, take this time, like you said, develop some skills, to think about what it is you want to do a lot of information interviewing. There is no reason why you're not doing 10 information interviews every week, 1 in the morning, 1 in the afternoon, and just talking with somebody about their career, how their careers are going, what's happening in their company. You know, Bill just posted that the South Lake had 6 landings yesterday. So, you know, people are landing. People are getting laid off, but, you know, it's one of those things, it's a cycle right now. And, you know, if those people have landed, they probably started their July 4th holiday a day early. So they wanted to go ahead and get out of here today. So
I think it also represents the class of job position. You know, I would think that perhaps some you know, positions might be considered more essential in this unique time right now versus others. So
yeah,
I'm kind of enjoying my time.
Yeah, if you're in
But
the
I do need a
travel
paycheck.
industry, probably not a good time to be in the travel industry. You know, what industries need you right now? So, you know, those are the ones that you really probably should be focusing on.
This is Cheryl. I was gonna say sites like ZipRecruiter and LinkedIn have a one-click apply, which makes it a little bit easier. They also give the name specifically of the person who's seeking you, so it gives you like a direct contact. So that can be good. I do notice on some things I apply for that they'll just say the job's on hold, or for temporarily, or you might get ZipRecruiter, oh, your resume's been looked at 3 times, you'll probably get a call, and I did on one. And then sometimes I'll get a, you know, like I said, an email that'll say something like the job's on hold temporarily because of we're working remotely with limited team, especially if it's healthcare related. So I'm doing remote group things that are working out great. Passive income's always good, or a chance to help other people financially. But I can tell you, LinkedIn really utilize those, what you're saying, 2nd and 3rd degree connections. I also don't ever give up on the companies I work for, staying in touch with people, because you just never know. I'm probably people that have reached out to me that have, you know, I've been, when I was laid off, it was like a large group of people at a time, kind of just downsizing. And it's happened a couple times. So, you know, you do want to bounce back. You don't want to get in a funk because you're home all the time. So I think these kind of calls, I do it for my professional thing. I do it for the financial business that I'm learning, because you learn a lot. You know, how does it, you know, how 401ks work better? You leave jobs, you have all this money sitting, you don't know quite what to do with it. Your finances, you're trying to figure out something to do. So, you know, but yeah, I also, you know, on the workforce scene, I do always do 5 searches a week, just because if they don't, there's always some opportunity. And even if you think you don't want part-time or consulting, I apply for those. I know full-time has benefits, but you never know. A lot of times those turn into full-time or lead or contact or connection. So I'm kind of doing both. I mean, I'm able to work remotely and I'm still able to do job searching and stay connected. And just, you know, I think that this keeps us from just being so secluded, because we do have this outreach. We do have this group support. Anyway, that's just my thoughts.
Yeah. Just be careful clicking on those one-click, you know, filling out your resume, because when you do that, you're not necessarily customizing your resume to the job description. And
oh, yeah, you're right. But there's cover letter options and things, and Yeah, that's true. And I have more than one version of a resume that has certain, this, headlined a certain way. You can also reattach it each time. If you're doing one quick apply and you don't want to use the resume that's on there, you can use a different one. So I guess that's one way around that.
Back on that, if that's okay, and just kind of open it up to the group. And Jeff, I appreciate what you shared, but I'm really wondering because, for example, in LinkedIn, it would be so tempting to just press that button and say, apply. I mean, it's a second, whereas earlier this week, I took an hour and 10 minutes because that's how I am, customizing my resume and applying online and making sure everything was there. And I still forgot, a section of keywords after the fact, but I thought, wow, the difference between 1 second with apply on LinkedIn versus taking the time to go to a company's website, create a username, password,
Yeah, but
upload it, etc. Can people kind of weigh in what you do? Because 1 second versus 1 hour, it's tempting, but just something like Jeff said, it seems to make sense to apply through the company website with a custom resume.
I mean, I had good luck with it. I actually had some good luck with it. You can also use your LinkedIn profile to apply, which has a lot of great information. So just a thought.
Yeah, I mean, you have to remember that your LinkedIn profile is different than your resume because your LinkedIn profile probably has a lot more detail, a lot more things you've done, a lot more keywords. And if you've taken the time to really fully develop your LinkedIn profile and get your keywords in, one of the things Ruth talks about is that those keywords need to be in 3 to 5 times for a search to find you so that when somebody does that search, so do you have it in your about section? Do you have it in 2 or 3 times in your job, in where you're talking about your bullet points and what you've done, describe results. You want to make sure your LinkedIn profile isn't a job description. You want to make sure your LinkedIn profile shows results. Every bullet point has to have a result. And with action words that would be searchable, that people would be searching for in that kind of position. So a resume isn't necessarily, I mean, it's a stripped down version of here's what you want to know to satisfy this particular thing. When your LinkedIn profile is much more broad and would have a lot more detail because you don't want to modify your LinkedIn profile every time. You just don't modify it every time. Other comments from other people?
I believe LinkedIn does allow you to upload a customized resume when you do the quick applies. I think I've done that in the past. Not so much with like ZipRecruiter or Indeed for the quick applies on those. Although I have had in the past, I have had decent luck with using the quick apply options for ZipRecruiter and Indeed as well.
So what is your recommendation? So am I hearing give it a try anyway regarding, I feel like LinkedIn reflects more of my personality. I feel like if somebody looks at my profile, I think they'll get some little glimmers as to who I am versus my resume, which will be updated in the next 2 weeks because I'll be taking yet another class. But
yeah, I guess my burning question is, given now an opportunity in the future to like ask a recruiter, I would just be very curious if hypothetically we have Toyota, right? Toyota's pretty much on everybody's target company list. So in their system, which I believe is Taleo, if a person applies through the website and loads up the resume and does it the traditional way, how is that different for what they see versus if someone clicks the apply button on LinkedIn and it pulls in the information from the person's LinkedIn profile? I wonder if it's like, if it dumps it into the same database and same fields, or if it's a different place. So that'd be an interesting question for a recruiter, what their take is, or if they have a preference. So maybe I'll ask Foster or someone to weigh in on that.
I've applied online through LinkedIn, and it actually takes you to the company website. So, and then you have to fill out all that information, and it takes forever. So you think you've got it easy because you're like applying online through LinkedIn, and then it takes you and you have to sign on to the company website. So it's not that easy.
And that's an option that the recruiter has when they set up the job.
Yep.
I've seen both, where quick and it pulls in your LinkedIn profile, or others where it just sends you to the site. But that's a good point, Roxanne. Thank you.
Yes, I've logged in and then had to fill out the half my life story and attach my resume.
You know, it's this whole job search sort of reminds me, you know, what do you do? Should you do this or do that? Sort of reminds me of a story that Dennis O'Hagan used to talk about the Barney Fife method of job search. You don't walk around with your bullet in a pocket of, you know, Barney Fife kept one bullet in his pocket and his revolver never had any bullets in it. You know, with job search, you gotta have a bullet in every chamber because you don't know which bullet's going to hit. You know, you've got to just sort of try everything and just do it all, and you'll see. I mean, if you're applying online, you should be doing that at nighttime or on weekends. You know, spend the 8 to 5 Monday through Friday networking with people and trying to reach out and have information interviews, do those kinds of things, and then spend that, you know, the quickie stuff. You know, Terry Sullivan says you should only spend about maybe 15 to 30 minutes a day on LinkedIn. You know, don't spend a lot of time there. Just go in, see a few things, be sure to share some comments, you know, respond to a few things that you see, because that'll move you up in the settings and let people see that you're involved. So you got to do a little bit of everything.
I don't understand how some people get like, you know, 5,000 likes, and poor little Barbara, I have 2 and one of them's me.
You know, it's sort of interesting. I'm actually conversing with somebody, Jeff Crilly, who was our speaker last Friday, called me up yesterday on the phone. It's not often I get a phone call from Jeff Crilly. And he goes, I want you to meet this guy. And he was sitting here in his office. Apparently this guy is paying Jeff Crilly for PR help. And this guy, he wanted to introduce him to me. And my question as I was looking up this guy on LinkedIn is, how does this guy who only has 1 follower on his YouTube channel, he does comment a lot on LinkedIn, how is it that he's able to broadcast on LinkedIn Live, and I can't get it done? And I'm providing, you know, 6 hours of training every week, and I can't get LinkedIn to give Career DFW a LinkedIn Live account. So, you know, I just think it's, you never know who you know when you know. You just got to keep trying everything. And so, yeah. Well, Barbara, if I see your comments, I'll be sure to like them for you.
Thank you.
Yeah,
I'll target 3 in the future.
Yeah, LinkedIn's like being a mad scientist. You're on there. Some people are saying you have to be on there all the time, and you know, you have to be known. And then there's other people. It's like, oh, you don't have to spend that much time. And I don't even know, because I feel like, you know, your head explodes. There's so many different so much different information out there that you don't know what you're supposed to be doing anymore. I just want a job.
You're supposed to do it all.
Yeah. I just want to work, because it's less tiring to have a job.
Yes, and I say that every time. Having a full-time job is a lot easier than looking for a job.
Yes.
Because at least you know what you're supposed to do. You have an idea of what you're supposed to do.
Yeah, it's that you have a nice routine. You come home, you have dinner, and you watch TV.
Yeah. What else can we
look at
somebody else? Jerry, I like your shirt. Very appropriate.
Well, thank you. All I was going to say is, you know, looking for a job is the hardest job any of us will ever have.
And my question is, think about how much harder it is for everybody who doesn't attend these workshops, because they're just applying online and then that's it. And, you know, you all are learning skills. Everybody here is learning a skill, learning a talent, learning something that can help you make your job search go faster. You're learning the tricks of the trade. Not that you want to be professional career counselors, but we're going to get you trained that way.
Yeah, I had someone that just reached out on LinkedIn saying that she lost her job. So I set up a call with her, a Zoom call for Tuesday. And I was like, let me tell you what I've been going through. And I'm going to tell her about Career DFW and all the webinars I'm going to. I'm going to send her all the resources I have, so she gets to start with all the stuff that I already know. So she'll probably find a job before I do.
You never know.
All right.
Anybody else have a topic or a question or anything they like to bring up?
I do.
Okay.
So I heard from Kelly that everyone is targeting Toyota. So I get calls time from time from this staffing firm, recruiter, whatever you call them, called V, like in Victor, Dart, V Dart, on Toyota jobs. So, I mean, my question is, what's your thoughts on these I call them no names, compared to Robert Half and, Babbage and Associates, all these different ones. But to me, this is kind of like a no name one. So, what are your thoughts? Because if I do pursue this type of job with this type of company, I would be an employee of theirs. So, I mean, I want some stability, blah, 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 blah. So, anyway, they seem to be, they suggested that they do a lot of, there's a lot of VDART people out at Toyota, because Toyota's model is mostly contractors, but I don't know. So I just want people's thoughts on when you get calls from contractors, not contractors, sorry, recruiters or staffing firms, whatever.
Well, it's very interesting. I just did a Google search on them and they do not show up on the first page. So that then tells me that time to move on. But I mean, that just tells me, I don't know how legit they would be. I mean, I think you then need to ask them some questions. How many puts do you currently have with the organization? How many other people in your organization are trying to fill this same position? There's some other, I'm sure there's some other good questions as a recruiter that you should be asking them, to see how legit they really are. But like I said, if you don't find them on the first page of a Google search, and I put in VDART, just like you said, I have to really question them.
If I can, just trying to help Barbara, Jeff, you raise a really interesting point that we need to research and investigate and explore. But yet what Barbara shared is actually a real thing. So just a very quick story. I have a training and development colleague of mine. They were laid off. They're looking for work. And through a recruiting firm, they were placed with Toyota Connected. Now, Toyota Connected, what they do, they're an arm of kind of like a sister company of Toyota. And if you think of, if you've heard of OnStar, so the in your car kind of on-demand information, that's what Toyota Connected did. So that turned into a year and a half of really great contract work. And so now when he applies for a position, and if you go to the Toyota ATS system and there's the drop down, have you ever worked for us, et cetera, he can say, yes, I have, so that's kind of a benefit, because, maybe that puts him higher in a recruiter sort and filter perhaps. But so it is real that there are recruiting firms, I don't remember which one recruited him, that do recruit people for positions and contracts. But again, as always, do your research. So
the other thing I have to say about Toyota is everybody wants a job with Toyota. But think about all the hundreds of companies that moved here because Toyota's here. Find those companies that moved here from California because they want to be in the same 25-mile radius of the new headquarters, and contact those companies, because I think you probably have a lot better chance of now that may not be as much now as it was a year and a half or 2 years ago, but just don't expand the focus out a little bit more, because there's a lot of other companies that have moved here because of them.
Are the ones you get calls, this still goes along the same line, but the ones you get calls from, and then you really can't understand, and you find that they maybe are an offshore place, and you ask yourself, now how valuable would this recruiter be in representing me to this company? And usually I come up with the answer is no.
That's a good perspective.
Chris, thank you. Chris found the VDART website. So there is they do have a website, but just because they have a website doesn't mean, doesn't mean they're a legit company. But I mean, I would still look them up, check them out on, check them out on Glassdoor, check them out wherever, just to find out how, anytime you get a call from if it's not a Robert Half or a Babbage and Associate, not a company you've heard of, check them out.
Hey, could I add one more thing?
Yeah.
I searched for VDART recruiters and I found some reviews on Glassdoor. That might help.
Okay. Were they good or bad?
I think they were at 3.9. Let me look again here. Yeah, overall they're at 3.9.
Out of what's their scale on Glassdoor?
I think it's
Maybe it's 5.
Yeah.
5. Okay.
Yeah.
All
Yeah,
right.
like I said, I searched for VDART recruiters and I found that.
Okay. Chris, thank you very much. It's amazing what we can find out nowadays, isn't it? Just think if this COVID thing had happened 15, 20 years ago. We would be home playing solitaire with physical cards, playing Uno, and be totally bored. But, you know.
No stress. We wouldn't have all these video calls trying to figure out how we're going to network ourselves.
Yeah, but you don't have to drive any place. You don't have to, oh, I got to leave now. I got to leave now so I can get to my 12 o'clock luncheon. I got to leave now so I can get to my 2 o'clock.
That's true. We can stay at home and just eat.
Anything else from anybody?
Yes, Jeff, just for future, how do I make sure my question gets answered? Since it wasn't
well,
even
I guess
noticed.
I must not have seen it. I mean,
okay.
Your
So
question,
just want to be.
Your further question as far as, is something you had in 2009. I mean, nobody here is a Google Voice expert. So, I tried to make sure I ask the questions that I think everybody needs to hear. You have a specific issue, a specific problem.
Okay.
I have a little more information.
No, I was wondering if it didn't come through, my question. Just want to be sure I posted it correctly. Okay.
No, I saw it. Thank you.
Okay.
I have a little more information for you.
Okay.
Thank you.
And that is if you had an old Google Voice account without a Gmail account, in other words, you used another email address, which you could do at one time, you cannot transfer that old Google Voice number to a Gmail account. So the only way to get a Gmail account connected with Google Voice is to create another voice account with your Gmail account.
Yeah, I weigh the benefits. If I'm giving away some privacy by moving to that, I just keep it the way it is because it's serving my purposes anyway. I'm getting away with a lot more that way.
Right. Anybody else? If not, I'm going to move on here. Let's see here. Let me share my screen again. So just as a reminder for anybody who's on Zoom or on Facebook, that if you're not getting information, please, if you're on Zoom, please put it in the chat box so we know, so I can know who you are. Put your name, phone number, email, and your area of expertise. I think I've got everybody's name, at least who's captured so far on Facebook. Oops, let's see here. Next Friday, we're going to be talking about labor law. She's a counsel at Greenberg Torrig legal firm. So Alicia's been with us several times over the last several years. Very fascinating, interesting person. She'll give us her perspective. I know her husband's been unemployed a couple times because when she's come, she's talked about how she's been helping him with his job search. So that'll be next Friday. Join us next week, next Tuesday at 1 o'clock. We'll have LinkedIn Tuesday, and I'll be the presenter then. On Wednesday, Interviewing Wednesdays, it'll be session 13 of 13, Avoiding Interview Crashes. And then next Thursday, we'll be doing effective resumes again. And you can submit your resume, and we'll be glad to review it. If you want to take the header information off and use an alias or just delete it all, you can do that so that you're not sharing it with everybody else. Just as a reminder, these sessions are recorded and will be on the Career DFW Facebook or the Career USA YouTube channel. Please check each page, subscribe, follow. It would really be appreciated. For those of you who, if you're not familiar with Facebook, here's what it looks like. If you're not following us on Facebook, click on that red, right below where that red arrow is, and click follow. It'll say follow or following, so that you're following who we are. We're trying to get to the next level, so it'll open up a few new things. For those of you who like to see the videos, where the blue arrow is, you can click on the blue arrow and it will show you all the videos, and they're all grouped together by categories. On the YouTube channel, if you click on the playlist feature, where the green arrow is, it'll come up with all the different playlists that I've put together. And then underneath where the red arrow is, if you click here, say view full playlist, you'll be able to see all the different events that were on that have been put into that category. I will be changing the name of the Career USA YouTube channel this weekend, so hopefully it'll be a lot easier to find. We'll see. I've got enough. I've been advanced to the next level to open up some new tools. So we'll see how that. It'll still be called Career USA, except you won't have to put in all the goofy letters and numbers, I don't think. So what we want you to do now, for those of you who are on chat, and if you have not done this yet, please open up your chat box, make sure it's going to everybody, and then please enter your name, your phone number, your email address, what the position is you're looking for, and 2 or 3 target companies. And then I will compile that list and I will send it out to everybody this afternoon, along with today's presentation again. And that way you can help somebody else. By helping somebody every day, you can help people do things. So if you will, just put all your information in there, and then at the end, hit the return key. Don't hit the return key until you get everything in together. Otherwise, it'll put it as 2 or 3 different messages. So I appreciate for everybody to do that. In fact, let me call it up so I can see the chat box. I don't know where my chat box went. Oh, well, I guess I'll see it. I'll see everybody else popping up. Jeff, thank you. Ernesto just put his in. So thanks to everybody for doing that. Like I said, I'll get that information out to you all this afternoon. If you have any legal questions that you'd like me to forward to our speaker next week, send me an email so that I can forward them on to her. That would be great. I'll leave this up for a little while so people can enter their information. Name, phone number, email address, position you're looking for, 2 or 3 target companies. Then hit the return key.